England, those heroes brave and bold? Where are the men who bled and died in foreign wars untold? The men who conquered all and stood for faith and love, the men who looked to guidance from the Father up above. Where are the men of England, the heroes brave and bold? The men who stood for faith and truth, whose honor wasn't sold. Where were the men of England when Ruperts so depraved took the daughters of our nation, who forever they enslaved? What of the men of England that looked the other way? They took the country shilling, they never made their play. Where are the men of England, the heroes brave and bold? The men who stood for faith and truth, whose honor wasn't sold. Police and vice squad, they all seem quite amused, as at the hands of rape gangs our daughters were abused. The politicians blamed the lads who stood up one and all, but most of all blamed Tommy, who always took the fall. Where are the men of England, the heroes brave and bold? The men who stood for faith and truth, whose honor wasn't sold. For now we all must stand. The future of our children is still within your hand. The future not yet written for this green and pleasant land. The future of our children is still within your hand. The future not yet written for this green and pleasant land.
This morning, my friends, I asked a question. This morning. I said, where are the men of England? You're here! You're here! You're here!
Well, good evening, everybody, and it's good to be back. It's been a little while since I've done a live, and I apologise for that. I have literally been, since all the shenanigans, well, I guess it really started on the 16th of May, and I thought I was going to get really my time freed up after the 16th of May. That hasn't happened. If anything, my time has been swallowed up even more. I've had all sorts of stuff going on. And of course, we had Southampton, and we had the unveiling of the murals in North Belfast, which obviously I needed to get something edited, get a little film put together on that. Southampton was meant to be interviews about UTK, and everybody ended up in Southampton on that Tuesday night, and we all know what happened there. And then we had Belfast, man, and well, the whole world knows what's happened in Belfast last week, and I'm going to talk a bit about that. Got to be careful what I say, but I'm going to talk a little bit about that in relation to this, which is the grooming inquiry that Rupert, Lowe and Restore published the report. I think was it yesterday? I'm losing track. Yesterday or the day before. I read most of it today. There's bits and pieces that I need to go over again, but I think 10 out of 10 to Rupert, Lowe and Restore. Now, anyone knows me, I ain't a Restore Britain fan, okay, for lots of reasons. I'm just being honest. But now I'm not party political anymore because Advance has ceased to exist. Temporarily, maybe. Who knows? We'll see. We'll see what happens. But I'm no longer party political, so I can give credit where credit's due. And despite me having reservations over Restore for lots of different reasons, when it comes to this report, I think it is absolutely superb. And I'll tell you why. Because this report is now in the public domain. It chronicles the testimonies. The most important part of this report is the survivors' stories. And I'm going to read some of them to you tonight, and then I'm going to look at what we did when we did the Rape of Britain documentaries in whenever it was, 2020, right the way up to 2022. So we'll look at what we did and what we found, and maybe what people can do, and we'll just see that the government, the UK government, is treacherous, weak, cowardly, pathetic, snivelling, duplicitous. And remember this, remember, we can't just blame this on the Labour Party. I'd love to pin it all on the Labour Party. We all would. We can't stand the Labour Party because they are the main drivers of this nonsense. But the last political party to be in power was pretty much Labour Party with a blue rosette. It's as simple as that. The Conservative Party was not conservative in any way, shape or form. And again, that causes us all sorts of problems when we're looking at the political arena. I'm not going to talk about politics tonight, but I'm just going to say this. At the minute, I am politically homeless. And as a politically homeless person, I am a political refugee. And I need a party that's going to say political refugees are welcome here. Okay? But there isn't one out there at the minute. That's just the way it is. But this scandal of the rape of a generation of the daughters of England. That's why I wrote that song, what was it, 2 years ago now. And it just came to me like that. Just came to me. The words and everything just came to me so quickly. And I wrote that because sadly, the men of England from the top, from the king down, we have failed the daughters of England. I include myself in that. Okay, I'm living in Northern Ireland, so I'm kind of semi-detached from England. I can't be there all the time, obviously, and I wouldn't want to be there all the time. But the reality is that we have failed the daughters of England. And I'm not condoning or condemning what I'm about to say, but I'm going to say it. This time last year, actually, it was June last year, a story broke in Ballymena about a young girl who'd been sexually assaulted by a Roma gypsy gang, allegedly. We've always got to say allegedly, haven't we, because of the stupid, pathetic laws in this country. But anyway, so this attack happened in Ballymena. It happened, I think, maybe on the Saturday night. On the Monday, there was a demonstration in the town. I think a couple of thousand people there. And then all hell broke loose. And that criminal gang that was based in Ballymena was literally beaten out of town. That's what happened. Now, it was, the PSNI lied. The chief constable of PSNI said it was racist. It was not racially motivated. Do you know how we know it wasn't racially motivated? Because the father of the girl who was assaulted was mixed race. Okay? Everyone knows that. That's out in the public domain now. So it wasn't racially motivated. That was a lie that was put about by the British government, by the Labour Party, surprise, surprise, the government, the Northern Ireland office, the police, the media, everybody jumped on it. No, what happened was, what should have really happened with a lot of these grooming cases, that basically people said, we're not putting up with any more of this. That's what happened. And same thing happened last week after that attack by the Sudanese. Was he a jihadi? We'll never know. We're never going to know what the motivation was for that vile, disgusting savage to hack a young man almost to death on the streets of Belfast. It wasn't for that guy with the hurley stick and the police. And again, I know what I would have done if I was a policeman. That's all I'm going to say. That's probably why I'm not a policeman. So all I'm going to say is the people of Belfast react in a way. I'm not saying whether it's good or bad. I'm just saying that's what happens. That's what happens. Because there's still a community in Belfast. And of course, the media are in absolute outrage over what happened. They were the same with Ballymena. This is scandalous. This is racist. These people are... No, there were people who were standing for their community. And what needs to happen in England? People need to stand for their communities in England. I'm going to get into that later. I'm going to go into a lot more on that if I have time later on. 10 past 9 now. There's so much to go through. I want to read some of these testimonies to you, because if you haven't read the report's I think 216 pages long. I've pretty much, I think about 3/4 of the way through it. Okay, but I've skim read, right way through the whole thing. So, but I'm going to go into more detail. I think I'm going to do a couple of sessions on this because I think it deserves it. I'm probably going to invite some of the people that were involved in working on it onto the show, but I'll need to do that before I announce who they're going to be. But it is harrowing reading, but it is essential reading, and it should wake us all up to what needs to happen. And there needs to be, and I'm not talking about anybody taking the law into their own hands, I'm not talking about anybody doing anything stupid, but there needs to be an awakening among the British people to what this mafia has done. There is a mafia operating in our country. It is still operating. It deals in drugs and people. Okay? It is a Pakistani Muslim mafia. It is connected with all the towns and cities up and down the country. Many of them are connected by family. Many of them come from the same parts of Pakistan. And again, to give the caveat, I'm not talking about every single Pakistani. But I tell you what, when we did the work that we did in Telford, we found out that out of the proportion of men in Telford of the age that would be active in these gangs, there was an extremely large number that would shock a lot of people. The police know that. The government know that. The general public don't know that because the general public have been lied to and gaslit for years. And anybody that does what I'm doing now tonight talks about it. You get the eye of Sauron comes upon you. You get the Islam. What's this group? Islamophobia UK. So some group anyway that's been saying that I should be arrested. I should be put in prison. Putting out where I live on the internet. Putting out all my social media. So what? So what? Do you think we care what you think with your pathetic attempts to take over our country? Anyway, let's have a look. I'm gonna go through some of these testimonies because, man, I don't know where to start on this. I think we'll start. Where will we start? I think we'll start with Chloe's story. Okay, and let me just remove that from the screen. Remove me from the screen. So this is a girl called Chloe. This is just one paragraph of her story. There were times when Chloe would be missing. Now I know a lot of people in the chat are Christians. Okay? I want every single time we talk about one of these girls, and there were girls when it happened, and they're still trapped in that. Many of them are still trapped in that loop, that PTSD loop, and they can't break it. I want you to pray that these girls get a breakthrough. Okay? Some of them will, some of them won't. And yeah. Okay. I'm going to read it. There were times when Chloe would be missing for up to 3 days, during which time she was passed between taxis, drugged, abused, and raped. In every case, the perpetrators were Muslims and primarily Pakistani. On one occasion, Chloe was abducted by an abuser who was driving drunk. She was taken to a graveyard. He gave Chloe, still 12 years old, whiskey before forcing himself on her and raping her. This is graphic, guys. I'm going to warn you, this is very, very graphic, okay? He withdrew before ejaculation and forced the empty whiskey bottle into Chloe's vagina, where it shattered. Chloe admitted herself to A&E, but no questions were asked about how she sustained such an injury. She was examined, the glass was removed, and she was discharged. Now, that's just one story. When you read the report, and I remember, I think it was the MP Anne Cryer. It could have been Sarah Champion. I think it was Anne Cryer. This was years ago. She said she believed there was 1 million people, 1 million girls that had been raped by the euphemistically called grooming gangs. Let's not call them that anymore. This report by Restore calls them what they are: rape gangs. Okay? Rape gangs. That's what they are. Systematically. If it is over 1 million, I think Anchor said 1 million or 2 million. I can't remember. It was a huge number. The conservative number is 250,000. That makes sense when you look at the map. I'm going to put a map on the screen just now. When you look at the map and you see the areas and how widespread it was. And remember, in Telford alone there was 1,200. In Rotherham there was 1,400. And they're the ones that we know about. That's the ones that we know. There's girls have gone missing. There's some of these testimonies I'm going to read you tonight are they're like reading a horror movie. It's like reading a Stephen King novel. It is absolutely horrific what has happened. But I'm going to show you the map. Take myself out of the picture again. Okay, so I don't know if I can zoom in on this. I'm not sure that I can. But anyway, you get the picture. You get the picture. Northern Ireland. Now, again, Northern Ireland's highlighted on this map. From a Northern Ireland point of view, why do the people of Northern Ireland not know about that? If that's going on in Northern Ireland, and I believe I've had over the years, because obviously I've been involved with doing stuff with Tommy, and people know that I put the team together that did the Rape of Britain documentaries. Over the years, I've had people in Northern Ireland say to me, this is happening, that's happening. And I've just met a complete stonewall. When you try to dig deeper and you try to find out more, everything goes quiet. It's tumbleweed. Yeah? Why is that? I believe it's because the authorities in Northern Ireland know what would happen if this is happening in Northern Ireland and the state is covering it up. Man, what we've seen so far on the streets of Belfast will be like a Sunday school picnic compared to what will happen if there has been widespread grooming and it comes out. That is going to blow the lid off Northern Ireland, believe you me. And I believe it's been covered up, and I believe it's been covered up probably by the Northern Ireland Office Security Services, the PSNI. There's a big operation to keep a lid on this. I know there was a case in Bangor that went to court and a man was sentenced to prison about 10 years ago in my hometown. I know that. But you know what? If you Google it, you can't find a record of it. I know where the restaurant was, but you can't find a record of that restaurant being used for grooming. So how big is it in Northern Ireland? I'm saying that because a lot of people who watch me are watching from Northern Ireland. But, you know, these are questions that we've got to ask. And, of course, this was covered up. One of the reasons there wasn't a big reaction in England, nobody could believe it. Nobody believed that Abdul down at the curry shop was raping his daughter. Let's just get it right. Let's just call it what it is. Nobody believed it. Look at how widespread this map is. Scotland, West Coast and East Coast, North East England, North West England, North of England, right the way across the Pennines. That band that is completely saturated with a Pakistani mafia. Look how deep it goes. Hull, Middlesbrough, Newcastle, Cumbria, Lancashire, Manchester, Merseyside, the Welsh valleys, the Welsh border areas, Telford, Shropshire, East Anglia, the west of Wales. I mean, for goodness sake, it's Wales. Cardiff, London, southwest of England, southeast of England, even the Isle of Wight. That's how widespread it is. That's how broad. That's how wide scale this is. It is the length and breadth of Britain. And again, none of us really believed the scale of it until I started looking at this in depth, which was probably about 2017. My whole issue with Islam, I was always worried about Islamic supremacism and Islamic domination and jihad and Islamic terrorism. That was what worried me. That's what drove me to get involved in doing street level activism. So I hadn't really looked at the grooming stuff until about 2017, 2018, when I got involved in the movement. The football lads were doing loads with it. The DFLA were doing loads with it. And that's when I woke up to it and started looking myself and realised it was a massive, massive problem. And people were saying to me, Richard, this is a big problem. And I go, Really? Yeah. I've read about it, but there's something in you just doesn't believe that there could be up to 1 million or 2 million children who have been raped by this mafia and trafficked and brutalized and murdered and disappeared and kidnapped and taken off to Pakistan. It is absolutely abhorrent. And we're going to let's have a look now at the demographics, okay? So let's get rid of the map and let's have a look at the demographics. So, demographic and cultural drivers. The demographic and cultural drivers are clear. Perpetrators from Pakistani Muslim and other Muslim backgrounds operated under an honour and shame-based clan code. And I talked about that before. I think I can't remember what it's called. It begins with B anyway. Operated under an honour and shame-based clan code that treated non-Muslim girls, especially white working class girls, as property available for sexual use. This pattern was reinforced by 8 theological and legal aspects of Islam. These include the doctrine of Muslim superiority drawn from Quranic verses that position Muslims at the top, with a duty to correct non-believers. The gang members' justification for their crimes can be found in the Islamic principles of loyalty and disavowal, known as, I'm going to try and say this, al-wala wal al-bara. Don't know how, if there's an Arabic speaker there, probably not, considering my Islamophobic tendencies, as I keep being told by our Muslim friends that I'm an Islamophobe. I'm not an Islamophobe, because that would lead you to believe that I'm afraid of Islam. I'm not afraid of Islam. I just think Islam is an evil, satanic, heathen death cult. It is anti-Christ. It is anti-everything that is good. That's what I think about Islam. So that's not really Islamophobia. If I was Islamophobic, most Islamophobes don't say anything because they're cowards and they're scared of Islam. I'm not scared of Islam. Just can't stand it. Okay. Anyway, it demands enmity towards non-Muslims. It is reciprocated. The superiority of men over women, forced marriage combined with the absence of any fixed minimum age of consent, the perception of female sexuality as inherently dangerous, a system of sex slavery that authorizes sexual relations with non-Muslim captives, and religiously sanctioned social hierarchy that subjugates conquered Muslims. These elements, filtered through clannish immigrant subcultures, provided religious justification that enabled the systemic rape and even slaughter of white British girls. Now, actually, it wasn't just white British girls. The Sikhs and the Hindu girls got it too. And the Sikh lads actually pushed back. There's footage from, I can't remember where it was, it was some time ago, of a whole lot of Sikh lads outside a flat in London. So again, this is where grooming's not taking place. Okay. A whole lot of Sikh lads outside flats in London where a girl has been taken by a Muslim, we imagine a Muslim grooming gang, and she's being held there, and they just surround the flat and the police turn up. Don't know what happened. I just remember that footage from a while back. This is what the kind of summary of this little portion of the report is. Were Britain functioning effectively, these girls would have received considerable state protection. However, now listen to this, every one of our institutions failed them. Every one of our institutions, the government, the police, the social services, the education system, the health service, the family structures, the community, because communities, and this is why it is so important. I'm going to just keep dropping these things in as I talk. This is why it's so important for the community, and culture to mesh together, and that's got to be done under Christianity, in my opinion, because Christianity is the glue, whether you're a Christian or not. And a lot of my friends aren't Christians. A lot of them are non-believers. Some of them are different religions. But the glue that holds Britain together, whether you like it or not, is found in the pages of this book. Not necessarily in the Church of England. Not necessarily in the Church of England, but in the pages and doctrines of the Bible, in the old Book of Common Prayer, the old Anglican Book of Common Prayer, etc., etc. Britain became a great nation when it became a Protestant nation. It's as simple as that. That's just a fact of history. So, putting all that to one side, we need to rebuild culture, we need to rebuild community, and we need to build resilience. Now, what happened in Belfast was a reaction to a violent attack. Can you imagine what would happen in Belfast if it came out that these gangs had been operating in Northern Ireland for years, and let's say a couple of hundred girls had been taken as slaves to these savages? Can you imagine what's going to happen in Northern Ireland if that comes out? I believe that's why it's been hushed up. But in England, there's just tumbleweed blowing through the streets. Nobody's done a thing about it. And I'm not saying do anything violent, but I'll tell you what you could do. If you find out that the case of this is happening, you could walk to that area and do a protest in that area, or just do a static protest in the area where you know that's taking place. And if a couple of hundred people turn up in one of those areas where that's taking place, well, you know, that's certainly going to put a marker down, isn't it? And again, I'm not in any way suggesting that people go there with violence intent. Go there peacefully. But if 1,000 people turn up in an area where grooming's been taking place and do a vigil, a protest, you could do it noisy, you could do it quietly, you could do it silently, you could take banners, you could take whatever you want. But I think getting on the streets to these areas where grooming is taking place is certainly one thing that you can do. I'm going to look at it later, what we did with those documentaries. Basically go and shine a light on the baddies. Go and make documentaries and put cameras under their noses, because that had a positive effect that we'll talk about later on. So there are things that we can do. There are things that can be done, but we need to do something. Of course, you do all the usual stuff. You write to your MPs. Apart from my MP's brilliant, but everyone, all the rest of them seem pretty rubbish. But write to your MPs. Get your MPs to do something about it if it's happening. Certainly, if it's happening in your area, write to your councils. Contact the police. If you know it's happening, contact the National Crime Agency. And make sure that the people of your community know that men from this curry house here are accused of doing this, X, Y, and Z. People know when this stuff's going on because it comes out. The state cannot hush this up anymore. They can't cover it up anymore. So people will know. And one of the, well, I'm not going to go into it now. I'll go into it later on. I'm going to read another testimony. And there's so many testimonies here. I'm going to read now. I'm going to give a real warning before I read this. Okay, if you are squeamish, if you are a little bit weak at the knees, and you don't like graphic descriptions of horror, you probably need to leave you probably need to stop watching this now, because what I'm going to read now, it's in the report. It is absolutely horrific, and this is Felicity's story. Let's get rid of my ugly mug out of there. Or will I leave it there? I'll leave the ugly mug down the bottom. Okay. In fact, no, I'm going to get rid of it. Where is this one? Felicity. These are Felicity's words. This is the first time I've ever shared a full account of what's happened to me as a child. I was trafficked by predominantly Muslim men outside the local area. After this, I began being collected either by taxi or by men who would pick me up personally. I was also put in situations where I was made to participate in harmful acts involving other children. This was used to confuse boundaries and to make what was happening feel normal, while also creating secrecy and fear about speaking out. The man was described to me as someone who adored me and would marry me. I was told this was God's plan and that I would need to convert to Islam. Obviously, that's not God as in our God, that's obviously Allah. This was presented as love and destiny, but it functioned as manipulation and control. I remember at one point being given a book about Islam by one of the Asian perpetrators, and being told I needed to learn it as part of the pressure to convert. Now, do you notice the thread through a lot of this is Islam? The diabolical thread through all this is Islam. Another upstairs room was known to me as a punishment room. I describe it this way because it was a room where girls were taken if they were said to have done something wrong. Inside that room, I remember crate-like enclosures similar in appearance to dog crates. Some were positions on the floor and others above. I also recall there being various items in the room which were used to hurt or punish people. Entering the room was frightening, and it was understood that being taken there meant serious punishment. I do not recall people always explaining why punishments were happening. Now listen to this. I remember one of the worst punishments I ever witnessed involved another girl who was accused of reporting one of the men to the police. At that time I had answered back and Char had stood up for me. She was slapped and both of us were taken upstairs. We were in the punishment room when another girl was brought in. The men stated that she had reported one of them to police and needed to be taught a lesson. I then witnessed an iron being used on the girl's back while it was hot. Now remember, this is a child. This has been done to a child. I then witnessed an iron being used on the girl's back while it was hot. I remember seeing severe burns and skin damage to her back. This memory has remained deeply traumatic to me. So you have three vulnerable little girls in there. One of them has a hot iron put on her back. Now, these are stories that we have heard widespread of not just disgusting, vile rape of children, but absolutely monstrous, violent abuse of those children. And if you're watching this, please, please, please let people know that this is going on, because not everybody's going to read this report. I'd say very few people will actually read the report like I'm going to read it, because I've read through most of it. I'm going to finish it off tonight, and I will make more videos on it. When we made the Rape of Britain films, I did the initial interviews with the girls. So I spoke to them, and some of them didn't even end up some of the girls didn't even end up making the film. So there was a lot of information came into my head, and again, I forget who said what, so I'm not going to say the names, the girls' names, and I want to say who said what. But one of the things that I was told, in fact, no, I'll read the next bit, then I'll go on to that. My recollection is that the girl later died. Now listen to this. That my recollection, and it's the way it's just said, it's just matter of fact. This girl, Felicity, is so traumatized by this. Pray for these kids. Pray for these kids, please. Please pray for them. My recollection is that the girl later died. I remember seeing her being strangled. Afterwards in that room, I recall there being several men present, approximately 4 in total. I was terrified. What happened to that girl? What happened to her? She saw her being strangled. She died. Where is she? Who was she? At one point, both Char and I were pregnant at the same time. All of these pregnancies ended in miscarriage. I was with Char when she experienced a miscarriage. At the time, neither of us properly understood what was happening. I thought she was dying. Seeing what happened to Char later helped me understand what was happening when I miscarried. I've experienced multiple miscarriages in my life. Think about that. Think about what Felicity has been through. When Char stopped being brought to the houses, other girls were brought instead. I asked one of the men where she was. After I asked about her, I was placed in the punishment room. One of the men told me she would never be coming back. They laughed and said they'd killed her, and that I would never see her again. However, one of the men also said he wanted to take her away to Pakistan. Who knows? There's two girls in this one little block of testimony. 2 girls, one certainly murdered, another one possibly murdered. I witnessed a serious violent incident involving a man I believe to be a police officer. I remember his face and his name. A girl was shot in front of me. This recollection is distressing and has remained vivid. Now, what happened there? Did the police officer shoot the girl? What happened? During this period, I was made to feel that I was completely under the control of the men involved. I was threatened with extreme violence and told such things as that I could be chopped up and fed to pigs. I believe that will have happened. Because of these threats and the abuse I had already experienced, I genuinely believed that I would be killed if I disclosed what had happened or what I had witnessed. At some point during this period, I attempted to end my life using a gun belonging to one of the men. Now, here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. I wonder how many people in the chat, how many people are watching this video or going to watch it back on replay. I wonder how many people in this chat have got a gun, a pistol, a rifle, a shotgun. I'd say probably very, very few, because what our state has done, our state has completely disarmed us. They've pulled our fangs. They've sissified the nation. And they've invited these savages. These guys are armed to the teeth. They're all tooled up. They're gangsters. They can get access to firearms. So that kind of gives them a bit of an advantage if there's ever a conflict in our country on sectarian grounds. And we've got to realise that. We've got to realise that. I attempted to shoot myself by putting it to my head. I'd never used a gun before and didn't know how to use it. I pulled the trigger, but it did not go off. I remember the adults being extremely angry. Now think about this. These are adult Muslim men having girls so terrified that they're trying to blow their brains out in front of them. I recall being threatened that I'd be arrested, and I felt terrified. He put me into a van with 7 other boys in a crate, and 2 boys drove us up into the middle of nowhere. Now, this happened to one of the girls that I spoke to in Telford. I'm not going to mention her name. She was taken in exactly the same situation, taken out into the middle of the countryside on her own, well, not on her own, with Muslim men. I think there was one other girl with her. And to get away, this girl stabbed one of these guys in the leg. And then he disappeared offside, and the men told her that she killed him. She hadn't killed him, but the men told her that. So he put me into a van with 7 other girls in a crate and 2 boys, drove us out to the middle of nowhere and took us all out. Lined us up and told us the rules that we'll be doing. 4 of the girls were taken from abroad to be sold here. They didn't even speak English. One of them talked back to the guy who was going to buy them and snapped. And he snapped and stabbed her all over and beat her. Then he set her on fire and made us all watch. What? I'm going to read that back. One of them talked back to the guy who was going to buy them. And he snapped and stabbed her over and over and beat her. Then he set her on fire and made us all watch. This is not normal. This is not a normal functioning society when this stuff's happening. Now, you may say, oh, I don't believe any of that. Well, one of the girls, I'm not going to say which one it was, one of the girls that I spoke to in Telford, she told me, and we never put it in the film because we just thought no one's going to believe this. We thought people are going to think like what we're trying to make, something like something like a cartel documentary or something. Nobody's going to believe this, right? But we're dealing with dangerous drug dealers, violent criminals, okay? A mafia. Pakistani Muslim mafia. That's what we're dealing with here. So I don't doubt that for a minute. The girl that I was interviewing told me she was taken into the back of a cafe in Telford. She'd been again saying she was going to go to the police. She was trying to get out. She was trying to get away from these disgusting, filthy, sick bastards. She was trying to get away from them, right? They took her into a cafe in Telford. They opened a chest freezer and there's a body of a little girl in there. So I don't doubt that this testimony is true. Where are those children? How many children go missing? How many young girls go missing? Nobody cares for them. What I noticed, there's a pattern in this report, and I don't have time to go into it all tonight, but there's a pattern in this report, and so many of these girls were from very, very vulnerable backgrounds. Mother was on drugs. Mother was a prostitute. Mother had probably been groomed herself, for goodness sake. Some of them were from completely broken families. Dad's an alcoholic. Dad's died. Dad's run off. Mum's on her own. And some of them just had no parents. They were just orphans. The most vulnerable children in our country. And the state failed them. And the authorities, the police, the social services, the government, the Home Office, the health service, the educators, they all knew what was going on and they did nothing. Because these girls were problematic. These girls were a bit lippy. These girls were the ones that came into school drunk. Is it any wonder they came into school drunk? Is it any wonder? And they were totally cast aside. They were totally forgotten about. And we've got to remember that these kids, these are the daughters of England. These are the daughters of England. They might have been from broken homes. And not all of them were from broken homes, incidentally. Some of them from very good homes. Some of them were from very good homes. And they just got caught up in it. And once they're trapped by these monsters, and hanging's too good for these bastards. They have murdered. They haven't just raped a generation of our daughters. They've murdered a generation of our daughters as well. Because even the survivors, so many of them are so damaged their lives never get put back together again. How many of them die of drug overdoses? How many of them take their own lives? How many of them are just so destroyed and shattered and smashed by this? This is, you know, everyone goes through hard times, right? But this is something totally different. And I remember speaking to these girls and just thinking, how did you survive that? How did you survive that? And that's why, you know, we would always call them survivors and not victims. Because that's what they call themselves. They said, we're survivors. We're not victims. We're survivors. Man. My granddaughter is about the same age as some of these girls when they started getting taken. I'll read that again. One of them talked back to the guy who was going to buy them, and he snapped and stabbed her all over and over again, and he beat her. Then he set her on fire and made us all watch. That's what changed me. That's why I tried to jump out of the window. Towards the end, I had to dig my own grave. There's one man I remember distinctly. He would talk about wanting a rose to his Fred. He talked about wanting a rose to his Fred. He's talking about Fred and Rosemary West, the vile, disgusting serial killers. He talked about his idol being Fred West, and he wanted. Now this is a Pakistani Muslim, okay? Because she said that already in the testimony. He talked about his idol being Fred West, and he wanted a partner he could kidnap, kill, and eat kids with. This is not normal behaviour, but it is in Islamic culture. That's the problem. If you look at the life story of Muhammad and look at some of the monstrous, psychopathic, evil things he did, he took sex slaves, he raped women, he raped Aisha when she was 9 years old, according to their own sources. So, and he, of course, in Islam, is the perfect man. That's how dangerous this all is. And we can't talk about it. When I talk about this sort of stuff, I'm thinking, I'm going to lose my YouTube channel because of this. I'm going to lose my liberty because of this. Why should I even have to think like that? Because none of those things should come into the... And that's why I just talk about it anyway. Because this is truth that absolutely has to be told. And we're going to look at the Islamic side of things next. He talked in detail, and I saw him again when I was 27. I did try to report him at 27, but they didn't believe me. They didn't believe me. Systemic failure once again. The police didn't believe her. Why didn't the police officers, wherever this girl was, why didn't you believe her? Why? Oh, well, she was on drugs. She was always coming out with crazy stuff. There's no evidence. No, it was expedient for you not to believe her. And my goodness, there's a day of reckoning coming for the police, isn't there? You know, they arrest people for tweets. You know, I've been panicking because, you know, they're coming after YouTubers, and I'm thinking, oh, what if they come after me? Well, I haven't been really panicking, but you know what I'm saying. We all think, you know, when these incidents happen and we're publishing stuff, we think, are they going to come for us? They're going to knock our doors. And yet these monsters, hardly any of them went to prison. They're still roaming around. Murderers, rapists, paedophiles. Murder, rape, paedophile, that equals one thing in my book, death penalty. Bring back the death penalty. You don't need to deport them, just hang the bastards. Just hang them. Yeah? Just put a noose up and hang them. And if anyone's offended by that, well, you should be offended by what I've just read, not by me saying that we should hang raping, murdering paedophiles. Okay? Because I think most people in the chat would agree with that. If you don't agree with that, you're probably on the wrong channel. I recall one occasion where he hung me upside down by my feet and whipped me. He then urinated on me. I also remember him forcing Axe upon me and pouring substances over me while laughing, as though he found it amusing. His behaviour appeared sadistic and degrading. The house resembled other houses I had previously seen where girls were present. I remember seeing a very... This is just disgusting. I remember seeing a very young girl, approximately 5 or 6 years old, tied up near the kitchen area. I could also hear other girls elsewhere in the property. The man I knew as Raz appeared to be enjoying watching another man rape me. During the assault, I screamed at him to help me. I recall that he eventually told the other man to stop and instructed him to leave the room. However, once the other man left, Raz then raped me himself. Where's Raz? Did Raz go to prison? Did Raz get the death penalty? No. Was Raz punished? No. Has Raz paid the price for his crimes? No. Even if he went to prison for 20 years, he's not paying the price for what he did. This is monstrous. I remember him saying that the night was special, that he was celebrating, and that I'd been purchased for the night as a reward for his associates. Over the course of the night, numerous men assaulted me. I cannot remember how many there were. I remember Raz sitting in the corner watching while the abuse took place. Guys, this is such a similar story to the girls that we spoke to in Telford. It is just case after case. It's like you read one, you go, that's exactly the same as such and such. That's the same as such and such. I want to say something very positive here in all this darkness, okay? I want to say something very positive here. One of the young survivors, we had a collection at the carol service, right? Buckets went around. We had a collection, and because of all the nonsense that's been going on about buckets, nobody wanted to take the buckets. So at the end of the night, I took the buckets and gave it to a friend of mine who's totally trustworthy, and basically he counted the money. Okay, there was about 800 quid there, something like that. We topped it up, made it up to about 900 and something quid. And so again, I didn't put my money up that I had on me, but so I think there was just shy of 1,000 quid, and we gave it to this survivor that had been in one of our documentaries, and she came to see me on the 16th of May, and she looked so happy. She looked so happy, and she was so glad to see us, and she was so positive, and she knew that she was surrounded by people who cared about her and who would look after her. And she gave me a big hug. She says, thanks for that. And I'd forgotten what we'd done. She says, thanks for that. And it was Tommy that told us to do it. Tommy said, give it to this girl. I'm not going to say what her name is. So there was something that was, again, that girl, you could just see she was getting a breakthrough. She was getting a breakthrough. Woman, probably now, what is she now? In her mid-20s, late 20s. But she looked happy. And she looked safe and secure. These girls weren't safe and secure. At some point during the night, I was forced to take additional tablets or substances. I became extremely disorientated, dizzy, nauseous, and unable to move properly. I remember the room spinning and seeing double. I felt physically heavy, as though I could not control my body. I vomited over myself at one stage because I was choking, but the abuse continued regardless. I remember witnessing severe abuse Now this is absolutely monstrous. I remember witnessing severe abuse directed towards the baby while the mother was forced to watch. I recall seeing cigarettes being put onto the baby. The woman was white, the baby was mixed heritage. These men then killed the baby. The incident caused extreme distress and remains one of the most traumatic memories I carry. At the time, I felt emotionally overwhelmed and psychologically broken by what I witnessed. I'm just going to read this, guys, because I can't even look at the camera at the minute. I experienced ongoing nightmares, flashbacks, dissociation, shame, fear, and emotional numbness. There were periods where I blocked out significant parts of what happened in order to cope and survive. I also experienced repeated situations where I felt disbelieved, dismissed, or treated as though I was inventing events, which had a deeply damaging effect on my confidence and mental well-being. Let's just read that one sentence again. These men then killed the baby. What do we do with that? What do we do with that? And those savages are walking among us. And I'll hear people say, oh, I don't believe that's far-fetched. No, it's not far-fetched. No, it's not far-fetched. We know what jihadists did in ISIS in Iraq when they took Christian babies and killed them and then cooked them. We know that happened in ISIS-controlled territory in Iraq and in Syria, and how Christians were completely... How there's been a genocide in Syria since that jihadi monster took control. Druze, Christians, Alawites, Shia, persecuted and murdered by Sunni jihadists. So don't think this is far-fetched. You look at October the 7th. There is something savage and disgusting and evil at the very heart of Islam. It's as simple as that, guys. Simple as that. A significant part of my healing has come from finally being listened to and believed and validated. Being heard has helped me begin to understand that what happened to me was not my fault. Although I still experience the effects of trauma and some symptoms remain, I now experience fewer nightmares and flashbacks and feel more able to speak openly about what happened. I also feel emotionally lighter than I have for many years because I no longer feel completely silenced or alone with these experiences. What do you do with that? What do you do with that information that I've just read to you? You know, I'm not surprised there's not a massive amount of people watching this, because one, I think will have probably been censored by YouTube already by now. What do we do with that? What do we do with that? I'm going to read it's quite a long piece, this, about Islam and the rape gangs. Okay, I'm going to read that now. I'm going to just pop it on the screen. Okay. The influence of Islam of... I'm going to actually make the screen full screen here, sorry. The influence of Islam, treatment of non-Muslims worldwide. Britain is not a unique case. This sort of thing goes on anywhere that neither welcomes mass migration from Muslim countries or contains long-established that either welcomes mass migration from Muslim countries or contains long-established Muslim populations. there is a consistent pattern of sexual violence directed against non-Muslim minorities in settings where Muslims form the majority. Across Britain, as we have noted, girls from Sikh and Hindu backgrounds have also been targeted by Muslim gangs. Again, that's very important. This is not a skin colour thing, right? This is not brown people just attacking white people. This is Muslims attacking everybody else. And we've got to realise that that's the way we've got to fight this battle if we're going to have a chance of winning it. What we can't have is a polarised society where white is pitted against brown and black, because these scumbags will win on those grounds, because they'll galvanise as much as they can the other communities to themselves. Across Britain, we've noted girls from Sikh and Hindu backgrounds also been targeted by Muslim gangs. Unlike the white British majority, these non-Muslim immigrant populations were never prevented from organising as a collective to protect their own. In doing so, as was their duty, the network of Sikh organisations drew attention to the appalling treatment of non-Muslims in Pakistan. We need not only look at the appalling treatment of girls from minority faiths in Pakistan, where Christian, Hindu and Sikh girls are kidnapped, forced to convert to Islam and married to get an understanding of their underlying motivations. In 2018, around 1,000 girls in Pakistan's Sindh province alone suffered this fate. In many cases, perpetrators are granted impunity due to corruption and connivance with local officials. In April 2024, UN human rights experts expressed serious alarm regarding the vulnerability of minority girls in Pakistan to forced religious conversions and forced marriages. Their press release highlighted that Christian and Hindu girls in particular face heightened risk of abduction, trafficking, child forced marriage, domestic servitude, and sexual violence. Human rights groups and media reports, including a 2021 BBC investigation, have estimated that thousands of non-Muslim girls, primarily Christians, needless to say, as our experience in Britain demonstrates, this same track record applies even when there are one among many minorities. The network of Sikh organisations, our letter to the Home Secretary on grooming gangs, 20th of January 2025, the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, press release, Pakistan. UN experts alarmed by lack of protection for minority girls from forced religious conversions and forced marriages. Hindus and Sikhs are abducted annually in Pakistan, compelled to convert to Islam and forced into marriage with their abductors. One documented case involved Farah, a 12-year-old Christian girl, abducted from her home in June 2020 by 3 Muslim men, raped and forced to perform household labour as a slave. A common sequence in these cases sees a girl abducted, coerced into signing a conversion certificate, and swiftly married to a Muslim man. Police in Pakistan frequently side with the abductors over the girl's family. When parents pursue legal action, courts tend to uphold the legitimacy of the conversion. Birth certificates may be falsified to indicate that the girl is not minor. Contact with the family is typically blocked. Following conversion to Islam, non-parents lose all authority over their child, as Islamic law prohibits non-Muslims from exercising guardianship over Muslims, including their own offspring. The evidence from grooming gang convictions across Britain repeatedly shows Muslim background among many of the perpetrators. Many, I think it's about 90-something%. When, I think Majid Nawaz and the Quillian people said 85%. But I think when you examine the court testimonies and the names that are associated with this crime, I think it's 95 to 98%. Okay, when this is viewed along similar patterns of sex crimes observed both in countries of origin from immigrants and in Muslim majority societies, it offers compelling grounds to consider that elements of Islam are contributing to the grooming gang scourge in our country. While it's unsurprising that the religion can shape and regulate sexual behaviour, the suggestion that Islam might play a role in driving sex crimes remains deeply uncomfortable for some in the liberal West. Try the BBC, try Piers Morgan, try Sky News, try even GB News to a certain extent. I tell you what, people are terrified of standing against Islam. People are terrified of calling Islam out for what it's doing. Even so, the possibility of an Islamic influence on these crimes cannot be dismissed. The available data strongly points toward it as a hypothesis that merits serious examination. The impact of any religion on individual. By the way, I think Inspector Clouseau must have written this part of the report, because it's blatantly obvious that that this is influenced by radical Islam. Okay. For instance, convictions of Indian origin Muslim men in grooming gang case across Britain, abducted, shackled and forced to marry, are notably rare, with those of Pakistani heritage. Sorry, that doesn't make sense. Sorry, that doesn't make sense. This fact may relate to demographic context. Muslims form. Oh yes, okay, yes. So it's saying there's relatively few Indian men involved in the grooming. It is Muslim Pakistani men. Okay, this is. Do you know what? I'm going to skip past this, because, to be honest with you, this is so patently obvious that we don't really need to go over this again and again. So let's get out of this and get back to some more of the testimonies. Okay, get out of that. Right. I'm going to read Dr. Hill's testimony, because she goes into a lot of this. Just going to have a quick look at the comments here, guys. These crimes have been used by Islam for 400 years. They're not a new. No, of course they're not. Listen. This is the crazy thing, that everybody in the chat gets it. Every working class man in the country gets it, or should do. Probably don't, but a lot of them should get it. And yet the government doesn't. Or does the government get it and it just doesn't want to say anything? Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm not going to. Yeah, I am actually going to do this testimony, because this is a really powerful testimony. Let's see if I can get to. Let's have a look. Okay. How many slides is it? Yeah, that's all right. Okay. Yeah, I would say it will get taken down, Blossom. I might even get the channel might even get vaporized. Who knows? There's my old mate Brett. Do you know what, Brett? If my channel doesn't get vaporized, I need to get you on the channel, because we need to talk about all this sort of stuff. Okay, right. Let's have a look. Dr. Ella Hill. Dr. Ella Hill was a victim of grooming herself. She fought through with absolute fortitude and became a medical doctor. And this is her testimony. I was told I must respect their religion. This was the first of many confusing lies that I was forced to believe. I was told that to show them Muslims respect, I mustn't eat pork. I was told that Muslim girls are good and pure and stay virgins until marriage, but all white girls are slags and they all sleep with hundreds of people. I was told white girls are trash. They are all whores. They are lower than shit under your shoe. They don't obey Allah, so they deserve to be punished. They don't dress modestly. Muslim women are pure because they cover down to their ankles and down to their wrists, and the hem of their top comes down below their knees. White girls show the curves of their body, so they're asking for it. They should be raped as punishment for not obeying Allah. Kafir, non-Muslim girls are worthless. Sex with a kafir girl doesn't count as adultery. Only sex with a Muslim woman counts as adultery. If you're not a virgin before marriage, you should be beaten. Many times I was told that the Quran says, if one of your wives disobeys you, beat her. This was often quoted to me before they beat me with their hands. They believed they had a position of religious moral superiority over non-believers. They believed it was their duty to punish us, as they believed that doing so made them good Muslims. This is what they were taught by their mothers. They were taught that witches in Pakistan are blonde, so blondes are more evil, and they deserve more severe punishment. I was told that in Islam, if a girl or a woman looks at a man who isn't a brother, father, or husband, that means she wants to have sex with him. I was told to look at the floor when I was around Muslim men. So when I did look at a waiter in a restaurant, I was then taken away to be gang raped as a punishment. I was told, you see, all these streams, they're just the common streams. It's the same thing over and over and over again. I was told that according to their faith community, girls are old enough for sex when they start their periods at age 11. Many of us had to endure the act of thighying, Arabic mufakada, which I'm now told is a religiously sanctioned way of molesting children according to some Islamic scriptures. This is just absolutely satanic. You have to lie down on your back with your legs straight together, and they straddle you and F between your thighs. I was beaten, strangled, suffocated, and my head was held under water, tortured, kicked, and raped over 100 times. This woman is a doctor. I'm not saying that means that she's always telling the truth. But what I'm saying here, guys, these testimonies are all the same or very similar. These women are not making things up. They're not exaggerating. They're not lying. They're telling the truth. And it's so widespread, and so many Pakistani men were involved in this. That's still been gaslit, and we're still being lied to. And that scumbag in London, that scummy, vile, dwarf, little wretched man of a mayor, is still gaslighting the people of London and lying about this. And for goodness sake, get him out. Get that man out of London as mayor. And again, what does reform do? What does reform do? This is where I've got a problem with reform, okay? And listen, as you know, I'm very, very honest about what I think about political parties. And it doesn't get me any friends, I'll be honest with you, right? Restore, I believe there are racists in Restore, and Rupert Lowe's done nothing about it. That's it, okay? Said it, I've said it 100 times, said it again. There's been nothing done about that, right? Reform, same problem. Reform is an Islamophilic party. It's Islamophile. Mohammed Zia Yusuf is whatever he is. I don't know, chairman or deputy leader or whatever he is, potential leader of the party. Layla Cunningham, a Muslim woman. Now, again, I'm not saying that Muslim people can't be a part of their party, but why are they put into such prominent roles? I mean, I think, again, strategy-wise, Reform genuinely think that by putting a Muslim woman up for Mayor of London, they might pick up a few Muslim votes. I don't think that's the way it's going to work. Because Layla is not a hijab-wearing jihadi Muslim. She's not a Muslim. She's a Muslim in name only. She's a Mooni, Muslim in name only. Meanie, Muslim in name only. Okay, Mino, that's what she is. She's not a proper Muslim according to all the crazy jihadi type people. And there's a lot of them too in the country. And there's a lot of them have influence over the Muslim community and tell them who to vote for. They ain't voting for Layla. Sorry. So in London, they'd have been far better having Ant Middleton or someone like that standing for reform. And it's not too late, Nigel. Get rid of Layla, get Ant in to stand for London Mayor. I think he may stand as an independent anyway. Everyone should get behind him. Where am I going with this? Tortured, kicked, raped over 100 times. Then your consent. I was told that if you don't scream when you're being raped, then you consented to the rape. So you should be stoned to death. I mean, this is crazy. This is in England. This woman was in England when this was happening to her. A child. I was told that Muslim girls know this because the Quran says that Aisha's silence was her consent to marriage to Muhammad. Wow. Wow. So Muslim girl, remember Aisha was 9 when she was raped by Muhammad. 9 when she was raped. That's one of Muhammad's wives, a 9-year-old. Well, I think he married her when she was 6, but he consummated the marriage when she was 9. Okay? Goodness knows what that poor child had to put up with before the marriage was consummated. Anyway. Great religion, isn't it? It's just Methodism with turbans, isn't it? And beards. That's all it is. There's nothing to see here. There's nothing dodgy about it. There's nothing to worry about. That's all it is. Look at what's in this testimony. Look at what's in this report. And you tell me that we're Islamophobic. And you tell me that we've got a problem with it. Well, boy, do I have a problem with it. So Muslim girls know to scream. When I did wear a headscarf to try to protect myself from being raped, I was told to get it off. And they raped me again. I now know that all these so-called ways to protect yourself from being raped are rape myths used to excuse perpetrators' criminal behaviour. They threatened to kill my parents. My parents tried to stop me seeing them. I was intimidated with guns. I was threatened with body parts being cut off with knives. This is what these bastards did to our daughters. This is what these bastards did to the daughters of England. There's no other way to describe it. And I'm just reading from the report, guys. I'm not making any of this up. I'm reading this, and this is just, there's just a rage. I mean, Farage called it right the other day when he talked about a cold rage. Because I've known about this stuff since we made those films. I've known about this before we made those films. But seeing this again refreshes it. It reinforces what I remember hearing the girls' testimonies, and it's like you're kind of in a dream because you're thinking, this can't be real. Nobody could do that to children. Nobody could do that to any children. Can you imagine if the boot was on the other foot? Can you imagine the scandal if this had happened to even one Muslim girl? If this happened to one Muslim girl, Bradford would have burned to the ground. The Muslims would have gone crazy. But, you know, suck it up for the sake of diversity, guys. Isn't that what one ex-Labour MP said? Suck it up for the sake of diversity. They have to go. They have to go. It's as simple as that. They have to go. Oh. Okay. When I tried to escape, I was told that I had offended their honour, so they had to spill my blood. They did this in an honour attack. All of the sexual abuse that I experienced was linked to spiritual abuse or religious abuse. Religious scriptures were used as tools to control, to force me to conform to their will. That is demonic. That is demonic. Islam is a demonic religion. The more I look at it, the more I see the darkness in it. Religious scriptures were used as tools to control or to force me to conform to their will. I was not allowed to question these religious beliefs. They used their religious moral authority and self-proclaimed elitism to control me through use of scripture, forced confessions, censorship of decision-making requirements, of secrecy and silence, isolation, excessive shaming, and punishment around sexuality, and requiring unquestioning obedience. I experienced this as a deeply personal, terrifying, physical, emotional, and spiritual attack. Every time they quoted scripture, it was very hard to argue with. To them, it was like I was arguing with God. To me, it was actually like I was arguing with the devil. Amen to that. I don't know if this woman's a Christian, but she is absolutely right. How dare they? How dare you come into my country with your vile, disgusting, satanic beliefs, rape our children, and everybody in authority turns the other way because they're cowards. Well, we're not cowards, and we know what you've done now, right? We know what you've done, and we don't fear you and your filthy, stinking religion. We despise it. The men that did this, they deserve to burn. They deserve to burn in the lowest hell for the evil that they've done. And I believe in God, and I believe our God's a God of justice as well as a God of mercy. And by the way, Muhammad's in hell as well. To me, it was actually like I was arguing with the devil. They used their so-called religious moral authority to do the most horrific immoral acts imaginable. That's where we're at, guys. That's where we're at. Right, what I'm going to do, I'm going to play a little edited version of The Rape of Britain, episode 1, I think it is. I think it's episode 1. I'm going to put it on screen now, guys, yeah? Because when you hear that and when you see what's happening, by the way, guys, let me know in the comments what you think of this. Let me know in the comments what you think. I may have vaporized my channels tonight, but you know what? I don't care. If I lose my channels over telling the truth about grooming gangs, I don't care. So let me play this little piece of a video. Oh, man.
I look at my kids daily and think if you wasn't here, I wouldn't be here.
What happened the first time with Barbali?
I slept with him.
How old was you?
I was 11, Tom.
He had sex with you when he was 11, so he raped you. Oh my God. And were the police involved in that?
Yeah, and because the charges were dropped.
Who got the police involved?
My parents. I stayed to talk to you.
Oh, babe, I wish I had your number myself.
Because I said to my mum yesterday, I was like, Tommy will know the truth. I didn't think I'd be strong enough to sit here now and talk to you. I didn't.
Do you mind if I ask why you are sat here talking to me?
Because I think that I'm sat here talking to you because you should know the truth. It's all right having it third hand or...
Do you mind if I ask why you want me to have the truth?
Because I think there's so many other girls out there that are being abused by these people. Just be straight up and tell everyone the truth. How it actually happened.
Now I should tell you, an independent inquiry into the sexual exploitation of children in Telford and Wrekin has been going on for well over 2 years. It's been led by the law firm Eversheds Sutherland. The problem is, and I'm quoting from its terms of reference, the aim and purpose of the inquiry is to raise public awareness into child exploitation in Telford during the period of the inquiry, and the inquiry wants to hear from survivors of abuse. But if accusations are made, the accused will be notified of the accusation and given the name of the accuser. That's a legal obligation. The accuser can object to the accused being informed, but then the inquiry cannot use their evidence. We have also been told that many of those who know most about what has gone on in Telford and Wrekin, the police, social services and counsellors, many of them are refusing to help the inquiry at all. The inquiry will do nothing to bring justice for the victims. Now we know the flagship Telford investigation, Chalice, resulted in 11 convictions. 11. That's it. Yet our shoestring investigation has been given over 200 names of alleged perpetrators. We also know the independent inquiry has been given over 300 names. We can shortcut the conclusions of the inquiry for you. The performance of the police, social services, counsellors, it was woeful at best, but more than likely a deliberate attempt to cover up these crimes against little girls for fear of being called racist, or in the interests of community cohesion, or, as we will hear and see, because of corruption. Covering things up doesn't create community cohesion. It does the opposite. Any right-thinking member of the community, of any community, regardless of their culture or their religion, would agree. It also destroys trust in public institutions, the very institutions that taxpayers fund to protect us all, especially the vulnerable. Police, social services, politicians. No one's been fired for this cover-up or corruption, and I suspect no one has even had so much as a verbal or written warning. These people just shuffle off into retirement with their fat pensions. And the abuse is still going on today, right now, in Telford and Wrekin. Watch this.
In terms of there's an independent inquiry going on at the moment, which is being hosted by an independent QC and an independent solicitor.
Well, will that
we are supplying
to
them.
the
We are
public?
supplying them with 40 years worth of information.
40 years.
40 years worth of
for 40
information.
years, children have been failed.
So that the inquiry can
So
have
40 years, children have been
full
failed.
understanding of the situation that Telford
Wow.
stays at these 40
It won't be
years.
released just like.
Yeah, that's right. The police in Telford have passed 40 years of evidence to the independent inquiry. They've known what has been going on in that town for 40 years, as of the council, social services and the government. And we know, and they know, it's still going on today.
Can we start at the beginning of the abuse, yeah? And go through, because we've got your dad's account, but we've not just got your dad's, we've got 4 or 5 other girls from Telford's accounts. A lot of the names and the actions matched up with some of what your dad said. But are you comfortable if we just talk through so I can hear it? Yeah.
That happened when I was 11.
Yeah.
At the Mint Indian in Trench Road.
Yeah.
I started working there. maybe in April, summertime it was. And for the first 3 months, I was doing deliveries with Dad. Then it became a thing where someone took a holiday and they said, I need someone inside. So I started working inside.
Is this in the evenings?
Yeah. I worked there packing orders
Yeah.
and answering the phone. People would come in there and look and think, well, she's too young to be here. Or they would say, oh, do you work here? I'd be left in the restaurant then while Dad went on deliveries, packing the orders. You know, then you get the flirty eyes and the touching and be like, oh, well, there's not enough space there, knowing that there was space there. Then my dad started working on the pizza shop next door. He renovated it and a new face appeared, Barbara Ali. I started talking to him. Then he started touching me sexually.
When you was 11?
Yeah, when my dad would go, he would touch me sexually, and you know, I thought, oh, it's normal. I'm a kid, I thought it was normal. And obviously then I started talking to him, meeting up with him on his days off or when my school holidays. One day my mum found out. She caught me texting him on the laptop and it stopped.
So your mum found out and it stopped?
Yeah.
But he'd been raping you?
Yeah.
And how old was he?
He was about 28.
Where would he rape you?
In his car.
You were 11?
Yeah.
So it started for you when you was just 11?
Yeah.
And you said the police were involved?
Yeah. And my police officer was DC Joe Hayes.
And that's when you was 11?
Yeah.
So DC Joe Hayes was involved at the age of 11?
Yeah.
And did they arrest him,
They did
Barbali?
investigations. He was bailed.
Okay.
And then about 6 months into the process, fell apart. So I was told.
But even if you were to not pursue the case, the police should have prosecuted him if they had. Did you give a statement? Were you
I did tell
a video
I
statement?
did 3 hours of video statement. They had my laptop, they had the phone.
All his messages?
Yeah.
And from that police investigation, so the charges were dropped.
Yeah. Everything was dropped.
When all this was blown back up with Telford, did the police come and speak to you about that case?
No.
Has anyone ever spoke to you about that case?
No.
But they did arrest that man at the time.
Yeah, and bailed him.
And his name?
Barbara Ali,
Where's he now?
Birmingham.
He's living in Birmingham.
Because he tried contacting me again on Facebook.
Recent.
2018.
And he's in Birmingham. And what was you told when you was 11?
He was deported.
Now, before we go further into Nicole's story, it's time we heard a little more about one of the families in Telford. In fact, two brothers. Gulfrez Khan, also known as Gaz or Bugsy, and Mohammed Charlie Khan. There are a number of allegations in what follows, and we have been given the names of these two men by several girls. We want to be clear, nothing has been proven against either of them. Like the independent inquiry though, we will be giving them the right to respond to the allegations made.
Where would you be?
I'd be in the car.
With?
Either Mohammed Charlie Khan, Rizwan, Tariq, Mahmood, or Bugsy.
And how old was you?
12.
And what would they be doing when you're in the car?
They would talk to me about going to meet certain people, not to tell my dad if they told me to go to that person.
Okay.
So days off, I'd say to my mum, I feel ill, and she'd be like, oh yeah, you can have the day off. And I'd go out. And going out, I'd drop drugs off, I'd meet certain people, drop money off to people.
When you were aged 13, 12 and 13, who would you be doing these errands for?
It'd be either Bugsy, Mohammed Charlie Khan, or Aguil Khan. This boy's single, or this guy's single, well not boy, but this guy's single, you know, maybe you should go meet him. And
This was Mohammed Charlie Khan?
Yeah.
And you was how old?
About 12, 13. And it became a vicious circle because if it wasn't Mohammed Charlie Khan, it was Grooming Khan.
So Mohammed Charlie Khan and Grooming Khan, did either of them rape you?
No.
But they were the ones that were telling you who you had to go and meet.
Yeah. So he would make me believe that, you know, I had to do something,
Yeah.
or I would be physically either beaten. He would
When you say
tell my parents or my dad.
when you say do something, you mean he would make you.
Go and see perpetrators.
Okay.
Be abused by perpetrators.
Okay. So he would be Charlie Khan.
Muhammad Charlie Khan. He was also a mental abuser. He would tell me to go and do things to perpetrators.
Who are the main people instructing you and telling you who you had to go and have sex with?
Muhammad Charlie Khan and Ghaffaz Khan.
Do you know what Muhammad Charlie Khan does?
He's a solicitor, isn't he?
He's a solicitor.
And he lives at...
Excuse me, is there a shortcut to the hotel this way? Give her that number at 7 o'clock to contact me.
We're live. This is a keel. He's come out of his house. This is the vehicle of one of our surveillance teams. Now, the reason why this is so important is they can get up close. They have zooming cameras at the front, zooming cameras at the back. We can position ourselves near any of their houses. We can identify specifically that it's them. This is important because I need to make sure I'm approaching the right people with these serious allegations. This is where the film gets interesting. I cannot publish these allegations against these men without giving them their right to reply. So we're going to go find them. We're going to see what each one of them have got to say about the allegations being made against them. Let's go.
Stand by. X-ray +1 are out. Moving to their car. They've entered their car and they're pulling off. Orange 1, over to you.
They wouldn't have been there that long.
That's in there.
Oh, that one there?
That's in there.
Yeah, just seeing him go past.
That's out of the tree, yeah.
Okay.
Let's keep blatantly then.
Got him.
Left. What, here on the right? Has he just turned up?
He's getting out of
Yeah,
the
okay. Okay. Right, ready? Bugsy. How you doing, mate? My name's Tommy Robinson. I've got to ask you some questions about my documentary, The Rape of Britain. We have serious allegations from children who say that you were involved in the rape and prostitution of them, that you were a kingpin having them trafficked. Well, can we talk? I've got some questions. We have accusations that you trafficked young children. You trafficked young children. You were the kingpin. You chose who they were raped by. You prostituted them. What is your relationship with Inspector Jim Bayliss? Bugsy, what is your relationship with Inspector Jim Bayliss? This man, what we need to know is that these children, these are allegations against this man, and the allegations have come in from children who have fled the country. These children are in hiding. They're a decade on, they're suicidal, they're damaged, mentally, physically, destroyed, And these men, all the many allegations against, just so people know, are living the life, driving their sports cars, living in big houses, and have the rule of this town still. They haven't been driven from their town. None of these people in hiding like our victims are. So, their allegations, you're going to see the allegations, you're going to see Series 1, Series 2, Series 3, Series 4, Series 5, and so we know there are multiple victims who do not know each other who have alleged this man has trafficked them throughout this town. Come on, let's go. Whereabouts, sir? Is he in KFC car park, yeah?
He's right at the drive-through. He can't get out.
Mohammed, can I ask you some questions? How you doing? I'm doing a film about the rape of a generation of our daughters in Telford. I've seen you give seminars in the mosque, against grooming.
Yeah.
It's quite admirable.
Mate, listen, I know you are. Listen.
Yeah.
I'm against anybody breaking the law. The police are there to get the evidence and bring people to justice. I've got nothing to say. I'm a British citizen. I'm born here. I know you have your opinions about people from my ethnic background, but I see this as my country.
Okay.
And
So can I ask you this?
Mate, I've got nothing to say to you.
I'll just ask you this one question. Come on. Why would 3 individual girls who do not know each other all be telling me and giving me statements that you have been involved in their grooming, in their trafficking, and in their prostitution? 3 girls that do not know each other in this town. Why would they be telling me that, Charlie?
Listen, this is complete a lie. I have never ever been involved in any of this business or anything like that. I've been married for over 20 something years. People who know me can vouch. I've never ever been.
I'm asking that question
I don't
again.
know.
Why would 3 girls who do not know each other say that you've been involved? I'll give you one scenario. You dragged a girl in the room, you threw her on the floor, and freshly migrants come in one by one and gang raped her.
Listen, mate.
What do you have to say to that allegation, Charlie?
I have got nothing to say to you.
What's your relationship with Inspector Bayliss, Charlie?
Who?
Inspector Bayliss.
I've got nothing to say
What's
to
your
you
relationship with Inspector Bayliss?
I don't know what you're on about.
I'll ask you again, why would girls who do not know each other, give me your name as being involved in grooming them, trafficking them, and prostituting them?
I have never ever heard of this. I've never ever, as I said to you, I've been married, I've been loyal with my wife, I'm happily married.
You're going to get to see these allegations on screen on the Rape of Britain documentary.
You're a liar, you're making this up. I unequivocally deny all this. I don't know what you're on about. You're just you go around making false allegations against people, innocent people, and you're trying to make bogus claims against people. Okay, I don't know what you're on about.
I'll tell you again, Charlie.
Listen,
just so you understand.
Listen,
just so you understand.
You better move away.
Just so you understand, it's not me making bogus claims. Yeah.
Well, listen.
I'm a journalist putting this together.
You're not a journalist. You're a racist.
Okay.
You're a racist.
It's girls that do not know each other, Charlie. All naming you.
I don't care.
Why would they do that?
Listen,
For what reason? Come on.
I've never ever been involved in any of this business. This is a complete utter lie. You're a troublemaker. You're a liar. It's been proved you're a liar. You're a criminal. You got a criminal record. I don't have a criminal record, mate.
Right?
I don't care what you listen. Yeah, okay,
Everyone's going to see who you are.
Yeah, yeah.
You might have got away with it for You might have got away with it for a decade. You might have thought you were smart. Yeah. You might have thought you were clever. You might have thought you had police officers on your payroll. Right?
What are you on about payroll? I'm not in a situation to pay people money. I don't have that kind of money. What you talking about? You liar.
So how come I have children saying you're involved in drug dealing? I have statements saying you're involved in drug dealing.
Move out the way, you liar. This is a complete lie. What nephews? What are you on about? I'm a married man. I'm happily married.
Why would forget it being me here asking the question, Jen? Why would girls who do not know each other?
I've just been blocked. Can you move out the way?
Mate, I'm just here to ask you questions. I'm just here to ask you questions. I'm just asking.
You're trying to kidnap me or something?
I'm not trying to kidnap you. I'm just asking.
You've got no right to do this, okay?
I do have a right to ask you questions. You're in a public space.
Well, I mean, that certainly brought back a lot of memories for me of working on those documentaries, and I think they're some of the most important. I know it sounds very arrogant me saying this, but I think those documentaries, particularly the first 4 documentaries, are probably some of the greatest documentaries that have been made in British TV, because nobody's doing this. You know, Roger Cook used to do it back in the day, but nobody's gone and done that. And do you know something? Do you know how we know that? Well, I mean, the evidence was overwhelming. We only approached people or tracked people or followed people when we had 3 or more witnesses that testified that these people were involved in what they were involved in. Okay. And it cost us a lot of, every single person that was involved in that cost us a lot of time and a lot of money. And the stuff we were doing, man, I mean, it was like, we guys that had been operators in Northern Ireland, intelligence officers, you know, guys that had gone undercover doing surveillance for us. It was an amazing operation, and it just, you know, let's say I was just fortunate enough to have the different contacts that we could get together and get into the field, and very diverse group of people, to say the very least. I'm not going to go into who the team was, but they were very diverse. Diversity is our strength and all that. And you know, we were in there. We were in their restaurants. We were in their pubs. We were under their cars, putting trackers on. We were putting drones above their houses. it was an amazing thing, and we spoke to those girls for hours. And somebody put in the comment, it was harrowing. I remember when it's like reading those statements again tonight. You read them and you're going, really? Like, really? Is that really what happened? Because our brains cannot comprehend that level of brutality, right? Before I forget, very, very important, Sammy Woodhouse and the women that basically gave testimony at the inquiry. Sammy has done an amazing job on this. Got to give credit to Sammy. Kelly, thanks for that. Thanks for that. Really appreciate it. Thank you for everyone, what you do with these children. Thanks for that, Kelly. Sammy Woodhouse, the women that gave testimony, the women that looked after the women that gave testimony, because obviously those women needed to feel safe and secure to give testimony, both on the on the documentaries and also on the inquiry, because this is about the survivors. This is about the survivors of those monstrous Muslim rapists, right? And we have no idea of the scale of what Muslim scumbag rapists have done in England. And yes, I know there's loads of white rapists before the lunatic left starting about that. We all know that. But the difference is we have imported these people and their brutality. All rape is evil and disgusting, but the brutality of these men is on another level. Murdering children, terrorizing children. And they did murder. In Telford, there was at least 3 murders in Telford of girls. No, there was more. There was 3 in one household, wasn't there? There was 3 in one household. Lucy Lowe, her mother and her unborn child. That was 3 in one household. You know, and I met Lucy's uncle. He was broken by it. He was an ex-soldier. Good lad, really good lad. He was broken by it. And this inquiry must get distributed as widely as possible. This video, share it as widely as possible. Not to get me likes and clicks, because believe you me, sharing this video is probably just get me in a whole lot of trouble. But share it so that people can see exactly what's going on. I hope I've put it across properly. I hope I've done it justice. I hope I've done the survivors justice. Because reading those testimonies again just brought back all the memories. And I remember we'd been doing some film interviews with the girls, and we'd do some surveillance, and we'd be doing, and we were all in the pub after the day's work, and we were talking about what we've been doing. It was a pub out, just outside of the area where all these savages live, and we were talking about what we'd done. And the barman heard us, and he came over and he said, "I heard what you were saying there," and he said, he told his story. And he said when he was a kid, he was about 15 years old, whatever age you are when you got a prom. I didn't have proms in my school. They just had violence and chaos in my school. But anyway, apparently schools now have proms, right? Where you like the American thing. The guy dresses up in a tuxedo or whatever it is, dress up smart, and he gets a prom date for the prom, right? And this guy came up to me and said, "I want to tell you a story." He says, when I was 15 or 16, he says it was prom night. It was when we were leaving secondary school, so he must have been 16. And there was a girl in the class. This is what he said: a girl in class that he really fancied, right? Beautiful looking girl. And he was shy, he was awkward. Teenage kids, weren't we all, right? So he was a shy and awkward teenage kid. And he plucks up the courage to ask this girl out, right? And he asks her out, and she says, "Yeah, I'll meet you." And so he turns up bang on time. She's not there. Waits 15 minutes, half an hour, she doesn't show. So he's got it. He's like, man, she seemed really keen. I've read that wrong, So he goes his merry way, bit gutted, bit upset by it, bit let down. Anyway, 10 years go by. He's in Tesco's doing some shopping. Bumps into this woman. And he says to her, he says, I don't know, let's make a name. Let's say she's called Liz, whatever. Liz, he says, what happened? Why didn't you show up? She tells him this story. She says, well, I was so excited. She says, I really wanted to go on that date with you because I really liked you. And I was so excited that I got there 15 minutes early. And while I was waiting there, I was all dressed up, all, you know, my best clothes on, best makeup, you know, really made the effort. And I was standing there waiting for you. And this car pulled up. And it was full of Pakistani Muslim men. And they dragged, this is what she said, they dragged me into the car and they raped me all night. That's what this guy told me. That was the story. This girl told him it in Tesco. Now, we never spoke to her, right? Like, she was one survivor. And she was a survivor, obviously, because she was still alive. One survivor from a good background, by all accounts, from a good home. He was kind of, you know, he was a decent guy. You could tell he wasn't, you know, he wasn't some junkie from the street. He was a decent guy, right? She was obviously a decent girl. But these savages basically kidnapped her off the street, took her off and raped her all night when she should have been at her prom. She should have been at something that was so positive and so good and so wholesome. And those savages took her away and raped her. And I heard that, and it made me realise the scale of it, because obviously we've been dealing with the survivors that we've been dealing with. How many more? Was she on the list of the 1,200? I doubt it. How many more girls did that happen to? How many women in the UK have had that done to them by Muslim savages? Let's just leave it there, guys. I'm going to play that song again.
Those heroes brave and bold, where are the men who bled and died in foreign wars untold? The men who conquered all and stood for faith and love, the men who looked to guidance from the Father up above. Where are the men of England, the heroes brave and bold, the men who stood for faith and truth, whose honor wasn't sold? When Rupert so depraved took the daughters of our nation, who forever they enslaved? What of the men of England that looked the other way? They took the country shilling, they never made their play. Where are the men of England, the heroes brave and bold, the men who stood for faith and truth, whose honor wasn't sold? Police and vice squad, they all seem quite amused, as at the hands of rape gangs our daughters were abused. The politicians blamed the lads who stood up one and all, but most of all blamed Tommy, who always took the fall. Where are the men of England, the heroes brave and bold, the men who stood for faith and truth, whose honor wasn't sold? Now we all must stand. The future of our children is still within your hand. The future not yet written for this green and pleasant land. Where are you future of our children is still within your hand. The future not yet written for this green and pleasant land.
This morning, my friends, I asked a question. This morning. I said, where are the men of England? You're here! You're here! You're here!
Guys, I just want to, I think this is quite an important video. And I would ask you just to share it. Just share it with as many people as you can. Listen, the Islamists are coming after me. They've said it. They're coming after me legally. They've doxed me. I don't care. I do not care. You've got to understand that. People have got to understand there are some people that get upset and get worried and get scared. I do not care about them. They are absolute savages. They are not worth a second of our attention. We pray that God will deal with them in whatever way he sees fit. And we know he will. We know he will. But when you look at the barbarity, the satanic evil that I've read, and it is satanic, and we've let that in. There are so many people, that need to pay the price for this. Right the way back, I mean, this goes back to the 1950s and 60s. The first case of that happening, which I believe was in Bradford in 1955, the first case of that, there should have been a mass expulsion of every single one of them. Every single one of those men should have gone in 1955 when that happened in Bradford, in my opinion. It would have saved a lot of hassle. And now we've got a big job on our hands. But whenever you waver or think about giving up, about stopping doing this, and believe you me, there's many a time I woke up the other morning and think, what am I doing? What am I doing this for? It's costing me everything. What am I doing it for? And then I read that report and I'm reminded of the work that we did. And I'm reminded of the fact that those girls had no voice. I'm reminded that it's probably happening in this country that I'm living in right now. And we need to know. We need to know what's happening in Northern Ireland. Because years ago, 10 years ago, a guy that did a lot of sus about him, I sat in his living room, and if he's watching, he'll know exactly who I'm talking about. I'm not going to say your name, but you know who I'm talking about. Proper lad. Proper, one of the toughest guys in our town. He sat me down, he said, it's happening. And Tommy was in prison at the time. I didn't have the resources, couldn't do anything about it. Then somebody else told me about it. A few years later, and then somebody else tells me about it. So if it's happening, what we need is evidence. What we had when we went to Telford were people that were willing to stand up and give testimony. That's what we need in Northern Ireland. If somebody has genuine testimony about this, that knows it has happened in Northern Ireland, please get in touch. Get in touch with me. Do you know what? I haven't got time to put the, well, I have got the time, but you can get in touch with me through the site. There's different ways to get in touch with me, yeah? So get in touch with me and let me know if this has happened to you and you live in Northern Ireland, because we want to expose it everywhere. And I believe it is happening here. And I believe the deep state's covering it up. I really believe that. But we'll find out. We'll find out soon enough. Okay, guys. I am going to go now. Share this everywhere. You know, I suppose you're better going down in a blaze of glory than anything else. Let's get this shared. If you're watching in Northern Ireland, Friday night, 7 o'clock at the police station in Bangor, another protest about this sort of stuff, about the cover-ups, about two-tier policing, about the demonisation of patriots in Northern Ireland, about the arrest and imprisonment of innocent people in Northern Ireland, which we know is happening. So it'll be peaceful, it'll be legal. Let's start getting big crowds there, because there's lots that we've got to do. So let's keep on this. Let's keep on this. Okay, guys. Right. I am going to go, and have a good evening, everybody. I'll see you all soon.